Welcome to First Watch Rewatch. I am Tom Duncan.
And I am Sara Shea.
And this is the show discussing various different random seasons of TV where one of us has seen them before and the other has not. I have a feeling that's going to be more me rewatching and you first watching, but even so.
We'll see.
I get to, at least for this first season, play the omniscient narrator of your fun time entertainment through our trip through the first season of The West Wing from 1999 to 2000.
Yes. And we are in the final stretch, basically. This is our last grouping of 3 episodes before the season finale. I don't know how we progressed through this so quickly.
By doing 3 episodes at a pop.
I know. I feel like I'm not emotionally ready for it to be over.
Oh, you are most certainly not. And you are allowed to I will take off the embargo. I've told you cannot text me about certain things.
Okay.
But when you watch it, you are allowed to send me emojis.
When I watch the finale? Okay.
Because you are not emotionally ready for that.
Okay. But I can't text you any words.
I will
what about
withdraw the embargo on emojis.
Memes? Can I send memes?
I suppose. I can allow memes. It's in the same spirit.
Okay.
Memes are GIFs.
Yeah,
not
okay.
GIFs. GIF is a peanut butter.
I know. That's
which is
I call them
inferior
peanut butter
to, which is inferior to Chunky Skippy.
Yes, but that's why I call them peanut butter pictures. Because it's not GIF, it's GIFs. But I like to say GIFs because it enrages people.
It doesn't enrage me. You're just wrong.
No, I didn't say you. I said it enrages people.
Well, I am a people, am I not?
You are a people, yes. But you're not the only one I'm concerned with. Maybe I want to enrage someone else, Thomas.
Okay, so we are off to a great start with Rage Bait.
Yes,
already.
we are.
So yet again, we are discussing the first season of The West Wing. This episode will cover episodes 19 through 21. Those are entitled Let Bartlett Be Bartlett, a very famous episode, Mandatory Minimums, and Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics. So first, let's start with episode 19, Let Bartlett Be Bartlett, directed by Laura Innes, story by Peter Parnell and Patrick Cadell, teleplay by Aaron Sorkin. This debuted on April 26th, 2000. Summary: when the weather suddenly changes just before a speech by President Bartlett, Sam forgets to change the introductory remarks, thus creating a humorous and embarrassing moment. 2 members of the Federal Election Commission, or FEC, have resigned, so the staff members start preparing for new appointments. Josh meets with the Senate leadership from both parties, but the conversation does not go well. Both the staff and the press hear a rumor about the circulation of an unknown memo. Mandy volunteers to CJ that she wrote the memo when she worked for Senator Russell, which we met early in the season, and that it outlines both the weaknesses of the Bartlett administration and a strategy to defeat President Bartlett for the nomination for re-election. CJ demands a copy immediately, and Mandy complies. After reading it, CJ approaches Toby, who shares it with Josh, who comments that their second year has not gone better than their first. Sam and Toby meet with a group of military officers about a recommendation to the president on the service of gays in the armed forces. But that discussion, too, does not go well. Admiral Fitzwallace, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, pops in and offers his advice. Eventually, the meeting ends without achieving anything. Mrs. Landingham encourages the president to improve his eating choices. CJ learns which reporter has the damaging memo, and she hears that a story will appear in print the next morning. Margaret has computer and email problems, and Leo reads the memo. The president reads it, then he and Leo have a heart-to-heart chat, after which Leo tells the senior staffers that they will start raising the level of public debate in the nation, and that will be their legacy even if they do lose some political battles. They agree that they serve at the pleasure of the president, and Leo tells them to get into the game. Wow. That is like a blow-by-blow over-summary of everything that happened in this episode, down to the granular details, and it definitely does not convey the emotion that you feel by the end of the episode.
You know what I thought, actually, Thomas, what we should be doing, since we're going over and we're reading these, we need to get into Wikipedia and edit this stuff.
Says the English teacher.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not so bold as that I need to rehash it, but yeah, this was not a particularly gifted summary, because I think I could have really summed this entire episode up in a couple of minutes. The staff keeps spinning its wheels on subjects and policies and things that they want to do but haven't been really unleashed to do. They don't have the confidence, they don't have the aggressiveness that is necessary, because they don't feel like they have the true mandate or have been let off the leash by the president. And so because of that, everybody is feeling rather stuck. And everybody being in a rut is never a great place to be, especially collectively. By the end of the episode, they finally have the confrontation that matters between Leo and Bartlett, and everybody's let off the leash to start going to do stuff that they've actually believed in the work that they wanted to do all along.
Well, and the whole best part of the episode is truly the end of the episode. I will say that in general, overall, I did enjoy this episode. It wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible. The best part is the end, and I loved the end. The end, again, yes, had that very idealistic sort, and Bartlett's giving sort of a little speech or pep talk, and I loved that component of it. And I kind of loved that there's this tension between CJ and Danny, that he ran this story, because this was the question that I had when we first met him, right? And so what is the integrity level that is going to exist between the two of them? And there's already been this tension, and so she's asking, I don't want to, infringe on our friendship or take advantage of you, but I need to know about this memo if you know anything about it. And of course he's like, yes, you're madly in love with me, or whatever. And I thought that was adorable. But then of course he reveals that he's actually going to be running this memo, and she says, please, I can't. And he so succinctly explains, it's news, even if it's not news to you, even if it's bad news for you, it still is news. This is an important story, and I'm going to run it. And just like the same way that you don't want to be taking advantage of me, I'm not going to not run this story just because I'm also madly in love with you. So it made me sad, but that's a real thing, right? That he's doing the job that he is supposed to be doing, and she's also doing the job that she's supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, in this case, they are at cross purposes, and it broke my heart a little bit. And so I was just like, okay, let's see how this plays out, because clearly it's going to continue being an issue after this particular episode. But essentially it took 19 episodes to truly get to answering that question that I had in the first couple of episodes about their interactions.
Well, with TV, you have the ability to stretch that out. And I don't think that you were unentertained by the relationship.
No,
You're just satisfied that we finally got to that point.
That is exactly correct. It did take this long for this to be the answer that I had at the beginning, and it's not because I was impatient for it in any way. What it was is it was satisfying without it being destructive, right? Okay. It didn't feel like they were falling off a cliff or things are so bad. And at the end, when Bartlett and Leo are essentially saying, we're not gonna do this anymore, we're not gonna what are they, like, boycott? No, that's the next one. Anyway, it's just kind of this discussion of somebody's doing the job that they have to do, right? And you have to let it go.
Right. I think that there's a couple of forces at play. Early on in an administration, you're so, especially if the election is close, and we get some reveals at different various stages of this season. I think it's possibly said in this episode, they're very much modeling the Bartlett presidency and the election behind what Clinton did in 92, which was he didn't win a majority of the popular vote. Right. He won the plurality, but enough of it was sectioned off by Ross Perot in that election that Bush basically couldn't get past Clinton to get enough votes and then get back into party, or back into the White House, excuse me. And so they've never really had this mandate. To a degree, you could say that by that extension, much in the same way that I would say the 2016 election was a surprise to even the people who ended up occupying the White House, there's an immaturity because you weren't ready to go. You didn't necessarily anticipate, or you weren't entitled enough to expect certain things. And even the administrations that feel like they're ready, or they have their transition ready, and they do all of these other things, there's so many growing pains to being essentially the world's biggest administrator. And all of these people are trying to go through some of their growing pains. They're recognizing there are things that they can't do and they can't do. And the beauty of the episode is yes, it, for 45 minutes, basically leads you up to this moment that is supposed to be the end of the episode, which is why this episode is very famous. And for that last 5 minutes of payoff, you get it, but you have to have the first 45 minutes of tension just continuing to ratchet up and make you feel uncomfortable for everything else that's going on. You don't get anybody having a single win during the entire course of the episode until they're like, all right, we've pissed around too long. Now we need to abandon our ground game, as he says, and put the ball in the air.
Right, exactly. And that is part that the entire episode was satisfying to me, because I remember writing in my notes, which I left at school.
You just had to say it.
I had to. That I liked seeing that essentially nothing was okay or nothing was going right, but it wasn't a disaster, right? That everything just kind of was meh in terms of decisions that they were making or conversations that they couldn't resolve or whatever it was, right? And they're kind of spinning their wheels. And I think, I can't remember who says it, somebody says to somebody, our second year isn't going much better than our first, because now they're into their second year, and they just kind of feel defeated. So what do? Do you give up and just say, well, that was very hard, so let's quit?
That's how you end up like Franklin Pierce.
Right. And so, so basically they have to have they need a rallying cry, and they need someone to center them, which Bartlett does, but he is only able to do that after Leo kind of freaks out on him.
Yeah, is it really Bartlett, or is it Leo trying to get permission, and it's really Leo leading the charge?
¿Por qué no los dos? It's both, right? So Bartlett is pushing him, okay, and saying, no, you've totally made me like this. I'm only not doing things because you won't let me do things. And Leo's like, you motherfucker. That's not what he says, right? But he finally is able to spill over the line of politeness, right? That this is my boss and also my friend, and I need to keep it civil, and therefore I can't fully tell the truth. And so he opens the floodgates, right? Here's where I'm worried about the things that you do. I want you to be more aggressive. I want all of these things, but I feel like I can't do it as someone who supports you because you're also not taking a stand. So I think that what it shows is the symbiotic nature of their relationship, and that at this point in time, Bartlett is a better president because Leo is there, but Leo is a better person because Bartlett is there, and they both challenge each other the appropriate amount and also get under each other's skin the appropriate amount without it becoming a personal controversy, right? Where somebody could take these things too personally and recognize that it's constructive criticism, but also not be able to let it go in order to be able to evolve. And I think that the maturity that exists in their relationship, and of course, I don't know how long they have known each other and how far back that goes, and hopefully we get more of that information later on. But they clearly are so in tune with each other, and part of it is they need to volley back and forth, right? And kind of call each other on their bullshit. It happens behind closed doors, right? This is not a falling out that happens in public or anything. It's not a falling out, right? But it's not a discourse that happens out in public. It's these grounding sort of conversations that they have, and that allows then all of this to kind of blossom out. So it's essentially, it is Leo leading that rallying cry, but it's related to Bartlett being Bartlett and pushing his buttons until he can get Leo to say, okay, here's how we're gonna approach stuff.
Yeah, it's the people closest to you that can always find the right spots to press when they really need to.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, a lot of this episode centers around a character you have, for lack of a better term, loathed, and getting somewhat of her comeuppance and being in the doghouse. Was this satisfying or annoying that she was on screen so much?
This was incredibly satisfying. And I feel a little bit bad that it was incredibly satisfying. So in our last series of episodes, didn't that include the stupid panda?
Yes, that was the last episode before
which
this
to
one.
me was the height of her uselessness as a character. And so this I very much enjoyed.
You don't like panda bears?
I love panda bears. They're so cute and they're so dumb, and they don't even know how to have sex. They have to be taught all the time. That's why they're an endangered species. So.
Wow. Okay.
No, that's the thing.
I'm not doubting you in the slightest, but I'm just thinking of a creature that doesn't have that baser
Drive?
instinct.
They're too cute. They're too busy falling off of logs.
Sustenance and reproduction.
Sustenance and naps.
Well, naps is sustenance.
Okay. I mean, you could say reproduction is also sustenance.
If every organism basically has two commands, reproduce and keep the game going.
Yeah, pandas struggle with this. They really do. Anyway.
Save it for the after show.
Yep. So, man, you notice I have to look up into the corner of my room because I don't want to look at you. So, Mandy did not make a mistake. She didn't actually do anything wrong in this situation. This problem exists because she did her job too well before she was employed by this administration, right? And so this is not something untoward, it's unfortunate, right? And in the same way that Danny says, like, I have to do this, Mandy immediately, she doesn't even try to defend herself, right? She's like, yeah, this is what happened, and I don't know how it got out. And so I liked that she was just very forthright with it. But this is clearly an indication that, like, her character is not gonna survive this show. I mean, like, as a whole, she'll survive this season. So yeah, I liked it, and I liked that she wasn't running around screeching, and it looked really, really shitty. Yeah.
Okay. Since I'm the only one of us that's going to take a political stance on any of this, obviously the gays in the military type of thing, that is so a 90s issue. That is no longer a thing. So I really don't have to say anything because, I mean, it's basically already been resolved as far as that goes. Unless you want to ask the current administration, for which I will say, fuck you. Then, moving on to the other thing. Now, this is the bigger of the two issues for me. Soft money in politics, dark money, if you want to say, particularly after, I think it was 2007 as Citizens United. That could all go away. It should have gone away a long time ago. Buying access to politicians, I don't know why we think that's such a great idea, why that has to be protected or upheld. The fact that anybody would think that a corporation has the same characteristics as a human being in a democracy is beyond me. Maybe in a oligarchy it would, but in a democracy I don't think it has any place. And I'm basically preaching to the choir because if you're listening to this, you're probably very liberal. So, probably. The audience for podcasts about TV shows, podcasts for TV shows about the West Wing skew very far left.
Mm-hmm. I'm just along for the ride.
Oh, that's fine.
Because I can't express anything.
I will take this opportunity to move on to the next episode and actually stay ahead of the curve for one. So let's move to episode 20, entitled Mandatory Minimum. Yeah, that happened. Mm-hmm. Entitled Mandatory Minimums, directed by Robert Berlinger, written by Aaron Sorkin, debuted on May 3rd, 2000. Summary here. During a speech at an awards dinner, President Bartlett announces his nomination of one Democrat and one Republican, each known to favor reforms, to fill two vacant seats on the Federal Election Commission. A powerful Republican senator wages battle with the West Wing staff. Leo cautions the senior staffers not to make mistakes this week, and CJ tells Mandy that Leo prefers that Mandy stay out of his way due to her involvement in the leaked memo, while she continues to undercut Danny Kincannon for having reported on Mandy's opposition research memo last week. Leo arranges for Toby and his ex-wife, Andrea, or Andy, a member of the House of Representatives, to meet and discuss legislative matters, and the two eventually reach an agreement against minimum sentencing for drug users. Al Kiefer, Joey Lucas, and Kenny arrive from California to help with the confirmation of the nominees. Josh and Toby tell Sam that his relationship with Lori has become known to one of his political enemies. The senior staff confer with the president in his bedroom at midnight with positive and constructive results. He firmly tells them that any unofficial boycotts of either Danny or Mandy are finished and says they all did very well in their jobs today. Okay, so where do you want to start here?
You lead the way.
All right. Again, we're going to be on kind of a... This works out really well. 19, 20, and 21, feel like somewhat... And maybe even starting in 18 almost. But 19, 20, and 21 really fit well together, and they kind of capstone at the end of that. And we've been building in this back half of the season to a lot of different things going on. So, but knowing you, let me start here. I've been teasing that we were going to be introduced to one of the former significant others of one of the main cast for a while now. What did you think of Andy Wyatt?
I really liked her. They seem like such an odd pair. Toby being such a curmudgeon. Of course, I'm a hopeless romantic, so I just feel like they're clearly still in love or whatever is going on, but also they're frustrated with each other. I thought that so this is a Aaron Sorkin only written episode, and this episode was much more rife with the sort of quippy, witty exchanges and sayings and stuff. So even Toby saying, "Oh, did you set me up on a date with my with my wife?" That type of stuff. She grounds Toby in an unexpected way. Like I said, they seem like absolute opposites, and yet they understand. This feels actually everything that I kind of said about Bartlett and Leo, I feel like applies to Toby and Andy maybe. And she wasn't around a ton. I want to see more of her. Does she come back more?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that one going to break my heart?
I don't think so.
Okay. I just want everybody to be in love. So...
Well, if everybody was in love, they'd be running a hippie commune out of the White House.
Okay, not that. Okay. Yeah, no, I liked her a lot, and it was a fun introduction to her character. And truly, you know, there's no knowing that she's gonna be introduced like this. So yeah, I liked it a lot.
No, she's a developing character. They introduce her here, and then she obviously comes back up multiple times and just continues to be in a more recurring role until it gets to be a much bigger deal multiple seasons later. But she is a recurring character.
Excellent.
Now, as far as Joey Lucas and Josh in this episode, and Josh wearing his not-so-normal Tuesday suit.
Yes.
I feel like we're kind of getting into the like cutesy high school stuff with you, but just by what I see here on the video, what would you like to say about Josh and Joey here?
This is so dumb and so cute, and I really like it, and I'm so embarrassed.
Why?
Because I did not expect watching this show that I would get so much cutesy lovey-dovey stuff for me to like squeal over. I thought it was going to just be very serious, like lots of death penalty and racism stuff, and instead I get to have people be totally awkward with each other because they have crushes on each other, and I like that a lot. Because I feel like that is much more realistic in real life than everything just being big and grand and romantic. I mean, he walks into a meeting with the president and says, "I gave her a coffee cup or mug or whatever," but they're talking about
White House on it,
right? And they're talking about something else entirely.
Because she didn't know anybody,
right? And he's just like off on a cloud. And so now I wonder if you're like, Sarah should watch this show purely as a rom-com and not as a political drama.
I think it can be both.
It can be
Good
both.
shows transverse a lot of different genres.
Yes. I feel, however, the thing, okay, Josh and Joey, very cute. I will wait to see what happens. I like their little kind of... Well, I guess everybody right now, except for the Bartletts and Zoe Bartlett and Charlie, everybody is kind of a little bit like enemies to lovers sort of scenario. But what's up with Donna?
In what way?
Donna's very interested in Josh's love life.
Well, in, I think, episode 1 of season 2, you find out how they meet. And there's a decent sized...
Shut up. Just shut up. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell
Okay.
me. I'm just...
There's a lot of affection there that is seemingly platonic. But she's very involved. And to be fair, like... in a lot of older manager, staffer secretarial aspects, you were fairly tied to a particular person. Like back in the day, your secretary ran your life. And Josh is one of those people that is so busy that he needs somebody to literally run his life, who asks a lot of really basic questions so that they can exposition dump and walk and talks through the hallways and explain things to the audience who doesn't know what all of these political terms are.
Like me. Yeah, Donna's my avatar, basically. Anyway, yeah. I just feel like there's...
Well, she can't be anymore because you went pink instead of blonde.
Sorry, I had to express myself. It's not...
Express yourself.
Yeah, it's not permanent. It's going to be fading.
What?
More.
What?
Yeah.
Hair dye is not permanent?
No, but this is like legitimately going to be faded out very quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Just tell me you think it's cute and let's move on. So.
Yeah. I mean, you got the whole punk rocker chick thing going right now, so.
Good. That's because we're in the 90s. Okay.
Yeah, sure. That works. Well, actually, we're in the 2000s, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I liked this little Josh.
All right,
Joey
so
romance.
Let me put this out here. Normally, I'm the one with the political takes on this.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that this is not necessarily politically involved, but did you have a feeling on, especially with where we've come in the past 26 years, on drug policy, drug understanding, treatment versus criminalization? I mean, some could say that that's, in a way, political yet, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. There are certain things like, yes, mandatory minimums is still a political issue. I'm not going to make you answer that. But as far as a certain level of sympathy towards drug use, I don't think it's nearly as cut and dry as it was in like the 80s and 90s.
I think that we have now a different view on drug use, drug abuse, and then specifically things like the opioid crisis, right? So where you have abuse of prescription drugs and how that has also evolved. So we're not just talking about like street drugs, for example, but drugs that are supposed to be used for pharmaceutical purposes and now are used in other ways for recreational purposes. So,
ironically, at this exact time that the show is happening.
Right. This is basically that shift starts happening. Growing up in this time, the war on drugs was, I think we were made to feel as kids, as teenagers, that it was as dire out there in the war on drugs as it could possibly be. So you had Nancy Reagan and her Just Say No to Drugs stuff. Everybody went through the DARE program, Dare to Stay Off Drugs, and then
of course, I did not, but
because you weren't old enough. So, and then the irony would be that the teenagers would then be wearing the DARE shirts that they got graduating from the program while they're out there taking drugs, right? So,
okay.
I think we felt at the time that it was that people were being facetious about it. And this talk about like the minimums and who it applies to, the types of drugs that it applies to, I think is actually a really important conversation. It's weird to live now in a state, I mean, this isn't the only state, but that has legalized marijuana. And how fundamental that shift is. It was legalized up in Washington when we were up there. And the way that people's public perception has changed.
I think a lot of that is additionally influenced by what drugs are scary compared to what they were. So
Correct.
the 80s is very much defined by the backlash against the cocaine boom that was there, and then Len Bias kind of like shifted the entire conversation about all of that. And all of a sudden now we needed really like an effective war on drugs.
Yeah.
And the 90s was rife with that, whether you're talking about the counterculture sense of like there were too many dangerous things, the crime rate was higher, the murder rates were higher, but they were starting to clean up certain urban centers and such. But then you had like the LA riots and all sorts of things that were going on that were very contentious, all in this cacophony of swirling social moray at the time.
Yeah.
We're not removed from that in any way. 2026 and frankly the 2020s has been culturally defined by a lot of very significant issues going on. Immigration, the pandemic, public health, inflation. I mean, there are all sorts of things that are working our way through the stew of where we're at right now. But I think that the prioritization of all drug users need to be criminalized is just not there. Part of that has been moving the ball forward on certain scheduled drugs, marijuana being one, and the amount of states that either legalized it outright or at least decriminalized it. Didn't legalize it, decriminalized, but whatever.
Yeah.
And the other states that still have medicinal purposes. And then we talk about, like, what is it now? We as of the weekend, we had an executive order by the administration to test the efficacy of certain hallucinogenic drugs for possibly trying to disrupt PTSD and like getting into some of those, which people have been making some strides on before and have said that they have some level of effectiveness, but we haven't explored it enough yet. So I'm actually saying that even a Republican administration that's all about trying to do the law and order speech and criminalize a lot of things is being a little bit more lax in this one particular area. And I wonder to a degree if it has to do, again, the opioid crisis hit a lot of places hard, but it hit a lot of very rural, poor, now primarily Republican voting places. And so because of that, I wonder if there's just a little bit more sympathy than there had been when we're trying to do some of the mandatory minimum stuff. But I agree wholeheartedly with the position of the show that says they're racist, because they frankly are.
Well, right, because it essentially is an urban problem. And is this the one? Yes. Where the president goes in to talk to, and I can't remember exactly what their positions are, but the hypocrisy speech, right? Where here's what happened to people that you directly know, right? And their drug violations and how they did not serve time. They just paid fines.
Oh, that wasn't the president, but that's Leo going into the press briefing room.
That's right. It's Leo, right? And because part of the conversation is that he's like, I feel a little bit weird talking about this when we just talked about me being a drug addict. But I thought that part where he's talking in the briefing room and says,
well, even before that, going back to where he specifically says, you know, should I be the one talking about this? And Bartlett makes it very simple, and this is a great piece of writing. Is anyone better off right now have you been in prison instead of in rehab? And I think that's, to me, what the conversation comes down to.
Right, exactly.
We criminalize people so that we don't have to deal with them. And we over-criminalize in this country. And that's the social justice aspect in me coming out right now, because we don't want to have to deal with a lot of mental health problems, drug problems, which is also a mental health problem, whether you like it or not, it is, and people that we have no way of reintroducing them or rehabilitating. We focus so much on just locking up and putting them off to the side, and so we just continue to build bigger and bigger prisons instead of trying to make them reproductive members of society. And I just find that to be wasteful.
Right, but we don't just build bigger and bigger prisons. One of the huge scourges during the Depression was overcrowding in jails, because so many people were being thrown into jail for so many things. And of course, these are movies and stuff that we've talked about, but like our friend Kieran was on our episode about I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. For a guy who was sent to 9 years in prison for a $5 theft that he never committed, right? So you just had people being thrown into jail, and essentially being thrown into jail because they're poor, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have jobs and those types of things. And it's funny thinking about this era that's happening in the show. Not necessarily right now, but thinking about this episode, is that we kind of were doing the same thing that was happening back in the early 30s. Everybody's a criminal, throw everybody in jail. The jails are absolutely overflowing. People, we didn't talk about this in the episode on the death penalty, but there were people who were saying we should have more people being executed so that we can empty out some prisons, right? That wasn't in the episode that we talked about, but that was part of the discussion at the time over capital punishment. So one of the things for me that I really wonder about is what would happen. There's no way to know, but what would happen if we actually decriminalized all of this stuff?
Well, I don't want to decriminalize all of it.
No,
Let me be clear. There are certain drugs that I do feel like, but what is the difference between rehab, like a forced rehab, where I think we could have a different system on that, and then we have, in certain states, vocational rehabilitation. Like, there are enough good examples. So for one of them that I'm aware of, just because of where I go to law school at Cleveland State, there is a great charity that what they do is people that are getting out, they basically house them, but then teach them 5-star level cooking and have them work in like a community center or restaurant type. And it's like upscale stuff. And then it's all supportive of this general mission. So then they have like 30 different guys that get out of prison and they go through this production system. So then they can get hired by other places so that you continue to pass through the program and whatever else. Now, there are not nearly enough of those types of things, but why can't we be doing more actual rehabilitation? I feel the same thing when it comes to drug use, and I feel the same thing when it comes to disabilities. We do not do enough vocational training, vocational rehabilitation, and we could be putting people to better use that are more productive than what they're doing now. We don't have enough jobs that are focused on, okay, I can only work part-time, but I can do so for like 2 days a week type of stuff. And then we have like a rotation.
But do you...
Employers aren't thinking in that realm either.
Mm-hmm. So one of my questions is, but do you think... But we have to fundamentally answer the question of why are we choosing something like prison, which I think we can say probably is not a deterrent nor rehabilitation. It's just punitive. What, choosing that or something that is clearly more rehabilitative, like these types of programs? Because
are you asking me why I think the problem exists?
No, I think I'm trying to ask if part of the reason that those sorts of rehabilitation programs, or there aren't more of them, is because it seems counterintuitive to the punitive measures of putting people in prison. Like, you did something wrong, and you need to know that you did something wrong, so we're going to punish you. So you're going to jail rather than you did something wrong, so we're going to coddle you. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case. And we're going to put you in a treatment program and that makes it okay. So does that make sense that maybe
I get where you're going with
Yeah.
that, but there's a reason why in the last 10 or 15 years, the prevalence of drug courts has grown
Okay.
in trying to figure out different solutions for low-level drug crimes that aren't necessarily like distribution or whatever else, that you can go after the people that are actually causing some of the problems instead of just the users, which... I mean, yes, it is somewhat of a problem, but it's not nearly the problem of this distribution or the business side of things that are actually causing more of the crime and the rest of it. But it's a issue of priorities. And that's everything when it comes to budgeting and whatever else. The amount that we spend annually on prisons and on the death penalty, which... Actually, it's more expensive to put a lethal injection in someone than it is to house them for the rest of their life. And we complain about all these amenities, like they get air conditioning and they get cable television and what. Like, okay, fine, yeah, but you also have to provide a little bit. Like, the Eighth Amendment does exist against cruel and unusual punishment. You can't just put people in a hot box in the middle of Alabama or on a chain gang and then not give them like water or, other very basic amenities. Yes, then people will argue, well, they don't need cable television. Okay, so they're supposed to sit around and twiddle their thumbs and not like beat each other to hell then? Like what are you expecting people to do if they're just completely idle for 24 hours a day? Okay, 16 hours because 8 hours will grant them for sleeping, I suppose, but You have to give them some productive means. It's not just simply saying that you get to go away and we get to not to think about you anymore.
Right. Well, and then I think that, and so that's basically my question is this idea, the anger that seems to come out of people, they have access to cable TV and that type of stuff. If they're feeling like even prison is too cushy, right, and too luxurious, then why would we give them a program to make them better? They should be suffering.
The punitive nature, the suffering thing, you tell me to go spend, or excuse me, let me tell anybody who thinks that it's easy to go spend one fucking night in prison and then come back to me and tell me that it's easy or it's too cushy or these people have it easy. Those are not places to be.
Right.
I would not last a week in prison. And I'm not even talking like all the jokes and the what. No, I would be dead. Quite literally dead. I would be a very easy mark. I would be the quote-unquote fresh fish from Shawshank Redemption. Like, people would immediately come and fuck with me. Like, I'm a very easy target. So... anybody that thinks prison is somehow easy, you've never been to one of these fucking places. Like,
right, and
even the jails are like ridiculous. So,
but that's the perception.
I don't buy that.
Right. Well,
I understand, and it's the same people that want to be extremely punitive and like everything needs to be a felony. They need to increase the sentences and what, but that doesn't actually work. It doesn't help anything. We've been trying to overcriminalize, and the crime rate, for everybody's sense of whether or not it's actually worked, has been supposedly going up. The opinion on whether crime is bad or not has not really fallen in the last, I don't know how many years.
Right, but I think that that's part of the point is I don't want to think about it. They need to be pushed away. It's not a deterrent, it's a punishment. I fully agree with you. These aren't effective methods. But they keep being pushed. And I think that there's something in it it's by weak men with weak wills. It is harder to do the kind thing. And like, it's not going to work for everybody. You could pull out, I don't know how many different cases where somebody repeat offends multiple times or has multiple different drug offenses. I get it. It's not going to work whole cloth. But you catch up so many people that could have been helped or reintroduced or gotten into better circumstances than you're ever going to punish the people that actually there's no ability to help. Sure.
That is my entire belief.
Sure.
I respect that some people will just vehemently disagree. I have friends who vehemently disagree with that position.
Well,
but that's where I'm at.
And then we start getting into the philosophy of like human dignity, right? And as you have already said, right, we have an amendment that these things have to be humane and so on and so forth. But
I think it's more of a power dynamic. I think the people with the power want to be punitive because they feel like they need to be in power. They need to control things, and this is their only means of control.
Correct. And so, yes. And so there's the dehumanization that goes on, right? This person is irredeemable. They are a criminal no matter what. It's kind of like the idea that you can't have a really haunted house. A house is either haunted or it is not. One ghost is just as bad as 5 ghosts, okay?
You mean like being a little pregnant?
Correct. You can't be a little pregnant, right? I've got a whole, like, haunted house up in my face. Anyway, so the idea is that if they've committed... We've talked about this, Mike transplants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dead guy eyes. Okay. So the idea is that if these people are criminals, it doesn't matter what crime they have committed. Everybody who has committed a crime is a criminal. Therefore,
if the U.S. government wanted to go after somebody, they could do so, and you've probably committed 5 crimes today without knowing it.
100%. So right, but to your point, that it's a power dynamic, and the people who are in power want to exercise some of that, absolutely. And I think that part of that is viewing through this very, very narrow lens that, you and I don't necessarily view it as, but criminals are criminals. They need to be punished. Trying to rehabilitate them is worthless, right? They should have made the right choices the first time. And so we are cleaning society, right?
Great, because every father from the 50s with their belt really felt that they did a great job with their kids afterwards by just whipping the shit out of them.
I mean, at the time, they did, yes.
Yeah, that worked so well. Moving on.
Well, right. And so I'm playing devil's advocate, right?
I know.
And I think that this in particular, and you said this already, drug use being related to mental health, right? And that they are deeply connected. They absolutely are. And I think part of it is that you can't tell if someone is a drug addict just by looking at them. So it's a more hidden sort of crime. It means that people who look like upstanding citizens can be criminals if we're just criminalizing use and possession and all of those things. Just like Leo is a criminal, right? Because he was an addict or will always be an addict. So you need to other the criminals in such a way in order to be like, it doesn't apply to me. I am the exception, right? When I'm taking illegal drugs, it's a totally different scenario than when they're taking drugs. When they do it, it's criminal. When I'm doing it, it is whatever it is.
Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance.
100%.
So, since we're already vulturing into episode, I think 21, maybe not, but let's just go there anyway. All right, episode 21 is Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics, directed by Don Scardino, written by Aaron Sorkin, debuting on May 10th, 2000. Summary: after last-minute quibbling over the wording of several questions, the senior staff started a nationwide telephone poll to measure the job approval rating of the administration. The majority of the staff think the poll will show a decrease in the rating, but CJ believes the numbers will go up. However, when the president asks Leo what the senior staff thinks the results will be, Leo omits CJ's prediction, which hurts her when she finds out and leads her to speak up for herself and her opinions. Leo gives a snow job to the lone reform-minded member of the Federal Election Commission. With regret, Sam explains to Lori that he cannot attend her graduation from law school. He later goes against Leo's orders and presents her a gift outside her friend's apartment that night, but someone takes a photograph of the encounter, which was a setup organized by Lori's friend, and it reaches the attention of President Bartlett. The president accepts a round-robin plan to change several U.S. ambassadors that will meet two goals: getting the campaign. This should be campaign. Getting the campaign finance reform moves on the FEC completed successfully and forcing out the dishonest, unlikable ambassador to Bulgaria. CJ spars with the press corps about treatment, rehabilitation, and mandatory minimum sentences for convicted drug users. The president makes a deal seeking reform on soft money political contributions. Eventually, CJ receives the results of the poll, goes to the Oval Office, and presents them to the president. Okay. Let's start here. Do you know where the Federated States of Micronesia are?
There's a million islands in the Micronesia area. I don't know where they are. They tried to explain it several times, and I...
Okay, so there's a bunch of islands out in the middle of the Pacific.
Right.
That is somewhere between basically Hawaii and Australia. Mm-hmm. That is known as the, I guess, new continent of Oceania.
Oceania.
Among those, is it Oceania? I always thought it was Oceania.
I always thought it was Oceania.
Well, whatever. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Tomato, tomato. Moving on. But there are different islands out there like Palau and Nauru and Vanuatu, Tonga, Palau, that, are out in the middle of the ocean, and the Federated States of Micronesia is one of them. However, the capital is not on the island of Yap. Why does one need to know all of those country names? Because someone is an uber nerd who has 2 thumbs and can name all 187 countries on Earth.
Oh, that's very hot. I cannot do that. I memorized the world map back before the Berlin Wall fell. So I get confused a lot about what is what. And Africa, those are all completely different countries than when we were young and memorizing.
There are some that have not changed borders but changed names.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I am terrible at geography, but that is because I came of geography learning age right before the entire globe was essentially relabeled.
See, you're talking to the 3-time defending middle school geography bee champion.
That doesn't
and 2-time history bowl champion. And I only missed out on the other one because there was a technicality. I buzzed in faster than the other person, and the electrical impulses in the boxes that they had didn't work right, which I tested that theory the next year. So it's not just that I had some conspiracy of the whole thing. No, I did it again the next year because they had the exact same setup and I got to choose. And so I chose the box that was closer so that the electronic impulse was faster. And I wiped the floor with everyone because I was buzzing faster.
Stop flirting with me.
Oh, is this our repartee here? Because, oh yeah, I was, not to mention, I know the dates, both year and to the day, of every presidential administration. Because I can. Don't ask me why I memorized all of these random things, but anyway. All right. Save it for the after show. Okay. Now, let's see here. Okay, so we basically get the resolution of the Sam Lori thing that we got from the pilot. We're 21 episodes in. She doesn't really come back after this episode. This is basically the end of this entire storyline. Now that you've seen this entire thing start to finish, starting from the pilot up until where we got now, thoughts, feelings as we kind of put this to bed.
I actually loved the way Bartlett summed everything up at the end.
It's nice when we can do things for prostitutes.
For prostitutes, right? And, tell her that the White House is sorry for all of the trouble that she's about to experience, blah, 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 all that type of stuff. And congratulate her on graduating from law school. We're going to have the Attorney General, get her a job or whatever it is, induct her into the bar. I really liked that. I feel like, man, I don't know if waiting this long was... So as I said, the Danny CJ thing felt satisfying. This didn't feel as satisfying. I liked these moments, but I feel like the payoff has kind of fizzled at this point. And
if they did this 10 episodes earlier, it would have been much bigger, but they waited 20 episodes to give us this payoff and have just been kind of slowly dipping our toe in every so often.
Also, the last few episodes where we've seen Lori and there's been this controversy, there has been no connection between Lori and Sam. They are at odds. Remember, they go to her house to have her help give information. And so she's just she's mad and angry. So are she and Sam still dating? She wants him at but she wants him at the graduation that's so important to her, and she's so disappointed when he can't come. So it should have been resolved a long time ago. The only thing that I liked about it was what Bartlett was saying, and yes, it should have come a lot sooner.
Well, you got to understand the potential disappointment of a really good, seemingly platonic friend not being able to be there for you.
Is it really platonic, though? Because they, I just don't even care.
At this point, yes. But, again, this is the end of this plotline, which I said would continue all season and quite literally did.
Yeah, I'm glad it's over. Not as bad as Mandy, but it was annoying.
I think Sam is a really good character that unfortunately got surrounded with a bunch of other stories and other characters who didn't matter as much.
Yeah.
They drew out the Mallory and Lori plotlines way too long, and neither of them were that satisfying.
They're essentially the same storyline because both of them are off limits. Lori is off limits because she's a prostitute, sex worker, and Mallory is off limits because she's Leo's daughter. And so essentially we have this character who...
Well, and her own stop signs and whatnot.
Correct. So you have this highly intelligent character, right? High ranking in the administration, whose only plot lines have been, who is he going to kiss? And yeah, it's a waste of his character, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, we get a little bit more of Charlie and Charlie's background in this episode, and his disagreement with the ambassador to Bulgaria, who's not a good dude, and some sparring, which happens more often and starts to become a bigger thing between Charlie and the president.
Yay.
I can see the excitement on your face.
Yes, I'm very excited. I absolutely, when Charlie's like, nope, don't know that guy. And then they are alone and this guy starts kneeling at him and Charlie just, nope, and absolutely verbally takes him out and calls him, just exposes him raw for everything. And then when the president comes in, right, and he tries to start waffling, all of that type of stuff, and the president believes Charlie, there's no question, right? Yeah. And of course, because they already know that he's this bad person, etc., etc. And Charlie, I'm afraid I'm going to sneeze.
Well, that's all right. I'm opening a new bottle, so. Well, this is going to be entertaining on the Sunday morning for somebody.
Real life. It's a real life thing.
Do you need me to vamp here so you can sneeze?
Maybe.
Okay. I can vamp here for a second. Charlie taking that entire small moment there to cut him off at the knees. My supervisor is the president, and he's finding a way to kick you out of the building right now, a back door he can kick you out of. And I'll let him know that you're displeased with my service in this moment because I've supposedly upset and said a comment that, while true, exposes your bullshit as an ambassador. You know, it was very verbally satisfying. But you'll come to find out that very much the dynamic between Charlie and Bartlett becomes very much father and son during the course of the show.
Good. I'm...
I know you've been waiting for Charlie to more grow into the show and the rest of that, and it slowly, methodically becomes, especially after season 2 and how season 2 ends, he becomes a much more significant part of the show.
And I think that for all of my complaining about the drawing out this storyline with Lori and all of that type of stuff, I like that this is a very slow build. Because his character was a surprise to me, right? Oh, suddenly we've got this. Okay, we've got this kid. Oh, and it's so pleasing how none of his appearances are. Or let me rephrase that. All of his appearances are effective in some way in moving the overall storyline forward, but also like the administration's story, the smaller storyline of the episode, but then the administration's storyline overall. And he's 100% into him. No complaints about Charlie other than his choice in girlfriend, but it's neither here nor there. Okay. And CJ, Danny's making me sad.
Yeah, it'll continue to make you sad now. So on CJ, she feels very much in a crossroads moment, and she has to step to the plate in this moment to kind of fight for herself. Is it just continuing to double down her place as your number one character on the show?
Well, I think I had said to you before that I kind of, it's really always kind of between CJ and Toby.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm so obsessed with the two of them, particularly Toby. But
Well, I can tell you why you're obsessed with Toby.
Why?
Because you have the same affliction that my mother does. You like the Eeyores. And Toby is a curmudgeon, but he's also an Eeyore. He just looks sad all the time.
I don't know if that's a fair...
My mother's favorite cartoon character is Eeyore, which is why every year for Christmas, I get her a new Eeyore mug. Except this last year, where she has way too many mugs in the cupboard, so I got her Eeyore wine glasses. One with his face on it, and the other with his ass sticking out.
That's adorable.
I know. I really am a great gift giver.
Yeah. I believe it. So, CJ, when she says to Leo, what the heck? And he says, don't read too much into it. And that feels dismissive at first, right? Like, just shut up, CJ. We're not having this conversation. But then he actually says, no, please don't read too much into it. Like, and I think that he's taking essentially the note of this wasn't appropriate. And I'm trying to hold you accountable and you can't just brush it away. Which I think is good that she is standing up for herself. He's also realizing that he needs to reassure her and also not be dismissive of her, right?
Well, and this is a affliction that she's had multiple times. She had the episode earlier when it was the Lord John Marbury episode where she got lied to, and then she had to get reassurances from Toby that she was an important member of the senior staff. And so this is now at least the second, I think it might even be the third, I think I'm forgetting another one, where she has to have been reassured that she is an important member, that she has her own things, that she is somehow necessary to the machine that's going on, that she's not just a subservient character, that she has some authority and power in her own right.
Well, right. I mean, I was trying to think of like the press briefing right? Where she can't do it. And so Josh has to step in and he's like, yeah, I totally got this. And it's essentially proven that like she is good at her
plan
job.
To fight inflation.
Right. But that she's actually good at her job and her job is hard. Right.
Yes.
So even while she's not messing up in that moment, because she is not available, they recognize, oh, yeah, this is not something that we can just be flippant about. She is integral to the functioning of the whole team. So, yeah, I like her a lot.
Okay, so we might be able to actually finish up a little earlier than usual. So as far as these episodes, anything else that you want to add briefly before we get to kind of just rankings and predictions?
I told you that I had so many notes, and at this point, I don't have them, and I'll just have to let it go, and then I'll tell you all about it later when I
let it go. Let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So overall, I felt like the first two episodes felt like one long episode. Mm-hmm. The third one also feels they all felt very cohesive, but to me, once again, it's apparent to me that the stuff that is written only by Aaron Sorkin are better episodes. That doesn't necessarily mean my rankings this one is going to fully reflect that, but
fair enough. Before we get to the rankings here and the rest of it, I will say that the way 21 ends feels very much like the end of a season, and it somewhat is, before we inject into where things are going next, because episode 22 is very much a setup for season 2.
Okay.
And where things are going to go next and how they basically just lead you up to that. So it's very much this penultimate episode. We have some satisfaction. We've dealt with a lot of the plot lines that are in season 1, and now we're going to introduce a bunch of the stuff that we're going to dangle out in front of you for where we're going with season 2. Now, again, I want to reiterate, at this moment, you cannot watch beyond 22.
Understood.
You can text me emojis because of it, even if they're just a bunch of poop emojis or angry swearing faces or any number of other things.
Middle fingers, got it.
I will know what you mean. Okay?
Like when I used to text you when we were watching Severance.
That's correct. And I will say, you may not be the only person that will be here to comment on that. And I told our incoming guest for next week that she can only watch up to that point as well. So you can both be mad at me together.
We have a guest coming on next week?
We do.
How is that possible?
Well, because somebody wanted to come on and share the space with us and, you know, play around in our sandbox for a little while.
Yay! So, can we say who's coming or no?
You're a co-host of the show. You do anything you fucking care to. Like,
I know. I'm pretending to act shocked that we have a guest. Right. So next week, movie BFF Clarissa's gonna join us, and apparently she's been watching the whole. Is she actually been watching the whole?
I told her she could. It makes sense that she would binge the whole season, which is why I gave her basically 2 weeks to do so. We'll see if she actually gets through the whole thing. But yes, we're planning on having her to basically recap the entire first season as we do our finale of essentially our first season of this show as we move into whatever the next version of it is.
Yeah. Like, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to decide what...
Oh, I already have that.
Oh, you do?
No. I have the method by which we're going to choose. I don't have the show that we're going to be doing. Okay. I am letting you choose, but I have some things to play around with and tease you about as a result.
Okay.
I've had this in place.
Go on.
I've had this in place since we started.
Since before we started.
Well, before we started, I knew where we were going to go and where we were going to end up. Basically, once you chose the show, and I knew this was going to be the cliffhanger that we were going to end on next week, I knew what I was going to do.
Okay.
So, I've been holding back this plan for roughly like 8 or 9 weeks at this point. Just waiting The truly vindictive are patient.
Oh, so you're being vindictive? What have I ever done to you?
Anyway, so yes, we'll have a guest on next week to discuss the finale as it sets up season 2 that we won't be watching, at least not right away.
Angry am I going to be?
Scale?
Yeah.
8 out of 10.
Okay, you don't think that I can handle it?
I think you can handle it. I think you're going to be very mad because you know the other episodes out there and you don't like waiting.
You're right. I
hate
waiting.
Now,
I hate waiting, but I do like to be teased, which is an infuriating conundrum.
I'm going to let that one be right there. Save it for the after show. Anyway, I would suggest probably waiting, since we record these normally on Monday, and waiting until Sunday to watch it, to be upset and mad, so that unless you're going to watch it on Monday yet before we get on, so it's like really fresh.
I won't have, yeah. Okay.
Just a thought. You can watch it multiple times, but you can only watch up to that point, and I don't know.
It's adorable how much you love thinking that you control everything.
I don't control everything. I'm not that stupid. There are plenty of things that I can toy with and manipulate and, dense, but it's within a certain sphere and whatever else, which is why when I have these opportunities like this, that I go full force and take care of them as I should, because, never miss an opportunity. But that being said, we got to rank these. So we have 19, 20, and 21. In what order would you put them?
Best episode is 21. I
think I would agree.
Yeah, I think that I didn't expect that. Going into that episode, I did not expect that episode to be my first. I feel like it was rather quiet, but the resolution of many things, plus Charlie, I was just like, it's...
Yeah, it checked off all the right boxes.
Right, and CJ gets to have her little victory at the end. I was wrong. We went up, 8 points instead of 5? I
think it was 9.
9, okay, instead of 5. I loved that. I would then put episode 19, so the first one, Let Bartlett Be Bartlett, as number 2. Just because even though I tend to prefer the Aaron Sorkin episodes, like the only written by him, I'm putting that one first just because I feel like 19 and 20 are actually pretty equal for me. And then 19 just comes before it, and you have to see 19 in order to be able to appreciate 20. And I really liked 19 leading into... so almost like 19, 20 are one episode.
If it's an enjoyableness, I think I rank them invertedly. So 21, 20, 19. Mm-hmm. But I think the payoffs from 19 and 21... So, like, I get you. I would have 21 and then the other two in whatever order. It doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. Because 20 feels a bit like a bridge episode, but it has its nice individual moments. But this is a full 3-episode arc to finish off the season that I think it somehow worked out fairly Kismet-like. That we were covering these 3 instead of, like, dividing them up somehow.
Right.
So,
and I think that I give the edge to 19 just a little bit because this is the episode where nothing goes wrong, but nothing goes right. And there's not a crisis that they solve by the end, right? This episode doesn't feel as episodic. It does feel much more quiet. Therefore, it gives it an edge over 20 just a little bit because it is... I guess the calm before the storm. And so I enjoyed being in that tranquil spot, recognizing that it is nobody feels good, right?
Sure.
It's not actually tranquil, but things are calm while everyone's pissed off.
Okay. So I have to assume that based on previous comments and reactions and such that you're still enjoying this.
Yes. Yes, I am still enjoying this.
Okay, so we've basically finished up all of the plot lines from season 1, and we're going to start hitting into the plot lines for season 2 with this finale now.
Okay.
This is going to be where it gets very prediction heavy. Where do you think they're going to start to go? There have been some seeds planted on a lot of things already that are going to come up. But what do you think might be the big event, the big cliffhanger?
So I'm trying to think. Okay, wait. Give me a second to look back at my notes.
And it's not necessarily stuff that happened in these 3 episodes.
No, I get it. I'm going back. So here are the issues that seem to be overarching that haven't been resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Bartlett's health, Zoe and Charlie,
Yep.
Leo's addiction, maybe his family. I'm not.
No, that one's been
more or less
pretty
done?
well.
Okay.
Well, at least like as far as we're gonna go with that, like
Okay.
it's still part of the show because I mean he's a recovering alcoholic and addict,
Right.
so you know that's always gonna be there. But it's not like there's any new major scandal or something that hasn't really come to the fore yet.
Okay, so the 2 things that I zoned in on is the Bartletts, right? Papa
Correct.
Bartlett and baby Bartlett. So then Mama Bartlett has got to be in there
Yep.
somewhere.
Yep. You've hit a lot of the major points. I won't say all of those will be covered right away in this season finale, and some
Okay.
may be season 2 plot lines, but you've hit a number of big issues. One of those 3 will be the reason for how it ends, but it's not exactly what the cliffhanger is. So I will just put that out there.
Okay. Yeah, and there's definitely unresolved stuff between CJ and Danny. It is right now.
That also will come up in the next episode.
Right now, it feels crummy. And maybe it's not going to get resolved, but there's more that's going to happen with that, I feel. I think that's all that feels like it could last because they're fundamental character things, not solve a problem.
Sure.
Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm saying
it's
that
fine.
the way that I want to say that.
No, it's
Yeah.
fine. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by a few things that are going to come up in there.
Okay.
It's just that it takes a hard left turn.
Okay. I will hold on to the oh shit handle in the passenger seat. The thing in the car where you hold on, it's the oh shit handle.
Oh, it's the first time I've heard it referred to it as such, but that's fine.
What do you call it?
I don't know, just a handle.
You hold on to it because why else would you need to hold on to it?
Getting in and out of a car.
No, it's for when you say oh shit and you hold on.
I don't know. I've never really done that. I mean, my mother's rode shotgun with me and then like brake and done her backseat driving and whatnot. But
But that's what parents are supposed to do when they're
my
you
mother's a terrible one at that. But anyway, I digress.
Okay.
So I don't have anything else to talk about. I think I'm looking forward to next week with our final episode of the season and then all the other shenanigans that we're going to do, including we have to apply the new rubric to the entire season.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Good thing I've been keeping track of my rankings. I have.
Well, I told you the rankings wouldn't necessarily matter, but there will be some characteristics and some rubric scoring that I'll bring up, and we'll rank this out. And
are you going to also talk about how you would decorate the West Wing?
If you want me to,
I
I'll
do.
do it now.
Okay, do it now.
Okay. So first off, Sorry, I know it's like a staple thing, but the Resolute desk is not necessarily functional.
It looks real pretty, though.
Yeah. Okay. 2, need some better couches and some firmer couches.
Okay.
First off, I like a good firm couch anymore because like the days of me falling into a couch now have led to me not being able to get up from said couch at a certain point. So firmness helps. It also helps with, sleeping and whatever else. And there are many times when I'd want to take a nap on one of those, a 15-minute power nap or something. But also, I don't want people like being extra comfortable on those sofas so that they stay long.
Oh, okay.
So there's that.
You could install ejector seats.
I'd want on loan from the Chicago Art Institute my favorite painting.
Oh, the diner one?
Yes, Nighthawks.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I know that may be outside of the normal realm of possibility, but I'd like to see it in there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If not, I mean, there's plenty of stuff on archives that I could get certain portraits. George Washington's going up on the wall. My namesake's going up on the wall.
Yeah.
Even if he was an asshole.
Still the sexiest founding father.
Okay. FDR's going up on the wall.
Okay.
Teddy's going up on the wall. Lincoln's going up on the wall.
Okay, so Hall of Presidents, got it.
Yeah, the top 5.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, TJ's not in the top 5. Kennedy's in the top 5. TJ's not in the top 5. TJ wasn't a very good president.
But he's the author of the Declaration of Independence.
Which he did prior to being president. He was a terrible administrator and basically drove the country into war.
We wouldn't have a country without his...
I'm not saying that his contributions and his philosophy and whatever else are important to the history of this country. Absolutely. But was he a good president? No.
Okay. Point taken.
Those are 2 separate things.
Okay.
James Madison had a lot of the same issues. Great founding father, great philosopher, terrible president.
Okay.
John Adams, very much the same. Frankly, we had a lot of shitty presidents very early on. Like George Washington, I give him kudos, and I think he is probably, if not number 3, or excuse me, he's definitely in the top 3, and he might not be 3 for me because of the precedent that he sets, the amount of things that he does to establish what the presidency is, especially because there hadn't been one yet.
Right.
So, yeah. And basically, then we go on this long trip between Washington to almost, basically Lincoln, where we just had a bunch of shitty presidents and ones that died in really weird ways. Mm-hmm. Like Zachary Taylor and William Henry Harrison.
Mm-hmm. Name their years.
Like we had some of the worst presidents that have ever happened in the history of this country. Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Andrew Jackson. Just to name a few.
At least Andrew Jackson's on some money.
That's what we're taking away here? I mean, John Adams literally tried to jail all of his political opponents.
Right. Well, when you're the second president and you don't know how to run a country,
that's what
not?
I'm saying. Most of them, like, up until the 20th century, we basically had shitty presidents.
Okay.
Lincoln was like a very lone exception. We somehow backed into a halfway decent one in Chester A. Arthur. Outside of that, like, most of them were bad up until basically McKinley and Roosevelt.
So
the first Roosevelt.
For people who
And then we went back to shitty ones.
For people who aren't nerds, you want to tell them about Chester Arthur?
He basically reformed the civil service with the Pendleton Act and several other...
And that was when?
83, I believe, is the Pendleton Act.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Because he took over... It's one of the 2 times in American history that we've had 3 presidents in the same calendar year. 1881 and 1841. Because James Garfield got assassinated by Charles Guiteau.
Okay. So, all of these pictures of presidents. What else are you putting in the...
No wallpaper.
No wallpaper. Okay.
Yeah, wallpaper's trash.
Okay. I mean, it's basically paper mache.
I want my Skyfall blue that I've had in my office for a long time because it's just a great color and it also has a cool name that happens to be James Bond themed. And I didn't know it at the time that I picked it. I like that shade of blue.
And blue is a very calming color.
Exactly.
Okay.
The eagle in the middle of the carpet can stay.
Okay.
But we don't need to switch out the arrows and the peace thing. We're going to be at peace.
Okay.
Unless there's a defensive war in some capacity, but, you know.
So you've taken out the desk. What's going to be
I want a
place?
much more modern desk.
Okay.
That's much more functional and has, like, drawers and things for me.
Okay.
No recording devices. This isn't Dick Nixon. You check your phone out immediately in a locker like it's the Situation Room.
Okay.
I don't need any J. Edgar Hoover issues.
Okay. Got it.
I don't have a Diet Coke button because that's just stupid and unnecessary.
It tastes better out of a can. I'm just saying things to say things to get you mad. So continue.
I'm trying to think. What color? I think the couches should be orange.
Blue and orange?
Oh, yeah. I love blue and orange. It's one of the reasons that I don't hate the Mets. Now, the Knicks is a different story, but it's so easy to pick on the Knicks.
I have no response. Orange couches?
Yep.
That's such high contrast. Oh.
Yep. That it is.
See, I'd be the person who would be like, I want big fluffy couches that I would sink into and not be able to get out of, and therefore I'm required to take naps in it all the time.
Now, additionally, I want vintage comic books in all the bookshelves. None of the actual, leather-bound bullshit things. I want something that if I'm going to pull it off the shelf, I might actually start flipping through.
Okay.
Because I'm a comic book nerd, and I have been for my entire life. To the point that when I was little and I had my actual action figures, I used to play football with them.
Okay. Are you going to have
And there will be a screen mounted on the wall with all of my favorite, let's say, sports memories on a replay loop at all times.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite sports memories?
Tottenham beating Ajax or Ajax, depending on how you pronounce it, in the Champions League semifinal, because I literally leapt out of my office when that happened because it was in the middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
I did a running leap into the air and just did one of these fist arm pumps and whatever. Either of the Packers Super Bowl wins that I've been alive for.
Okay.
Those were great moments. The Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary in Detroit. Great moment.
Yeah.
The goal that Crosby scored to win Game 7 of the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals against the Ottawa Senators.
Okay.
Actually, no, I don't think it was Crosby. Crosby was the assist. I think Chris Kunitz scored it. But anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, so take all of my favorite sports teams. The Wisconsin Badger basketball team beating 38-0 Kentucky.
Okay.
To take them down in the Final Four. Things like that. All of those great seminal moments, just play them on a loop throughout the day.
Okay.
In perpetuity, because they'll make me smile and calm me down.
Okay.
I know this sounds like a little kid getting to be president, and I don't care.
No,
these are all designed for specific things having to do with me and what I would need to be able to do quite possibly the toughest job in the world.
I do not disagree.
I would be okay with chair rails and then a different color paint on the bottom.
Okay.
Probably something more earth tony, like a brown.
Brown and blue and orange. Got it. Okay. At least it's not beige. because beige is terrible.
Okay. You asked what I would do with this, and
No, I know, and because you had said I would be doing some weird stuff. Wait, so when you say a modern desk, what do you actually mean?
It's not going to be glass, but it's going to be more of a modern, like, wood, and it's going to have multiple levels to it.
Okay, multiple screens.
It's going to be a little bit more open,
Okay.
too. Like, it's not quite as... The Resolute desk feels so permanent, like it's a fixture type of thing.
Well,
it's almost like a
Resolute
stone
desk. Yeah.
Well, I know, but I don't need the desk itself to project like I have a big schlong. It's not necessary. Again, I would never support anyone voting for me for president. It would be a terrible decision. But I'm just saying, if it were me in charge of this.
I do like your idea of putting in your favorite piece of art. So I would just be like, bring in some Van Goghs, you guys.
Again,
I like that.
Relaxes me, calms me. In tough moments of strife, I would want to be able to look at that and feel a certain serenity with the universe. And that's often what I get when I'm there in person with that. I will spend a good half an hour just sitting and observing.
I remember you telling
And I
me
have
about
not,
it, and yeah.
I have not seen it in over 10 years now, and it's crying shame.
It is. That means
I think the next time my dad and I go to Chicago for oral arguments or the circuit court or whatever, then we might just need to take an extra day.
I agree. You should.
So, anyway, but yeah, now we've run well over.
And it wasn't my fault.
Well, I mean, you did ask me about my Oval Office choices and then
I did.
harshly judged me for my color scheme.
I just am restating blue and orange and brown.
Well, the brown is negotiable. I mean, you'd probably have a tougher time if we went with like a nice burnt orange on the bottom anyway, instead of a brown, but you know, okay.
I think that you should generate some images for me so that I can look at them and
I don't know how I would do that, but
see what there's robots online that will do it for you.
Robots. Anyway, I think this is a good place to stop this episode.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being with us for another week. We'll see you next week.